Welcome to the Boss Ladies Mindset channel, powered by Crown for Success, the largest women's empowerment network for soulful CEOs on social media. We are a coaching business that mentors and motivates women to reach their highest potential in business and mindset mastery. Each one of our episodes will share valuable tips, resources, interviews, and empowering information that will help boss ladies design a life and business they're crazy as fuck about.
Hello, Selin. How are you? Oh, you're a little bit frozen.
Hello?
There she is.
Can you see me?
I sure can.
Hi.
Oh, you look fabulous. I'm loving those earrings.
Thank you. I just got them from Colorado, actually. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, very cool.
Not visiting as we're in quarantine time.
And everybody, this is my dog Nina. She's hell-bent on being in this video, so please excuse her periodic interruptions. So everybody, welcome to the second episode of Wholehearted Hype. I am Jill, the hype girl behind Hype Girl Coaching. I am also a regional vice president for Crown for Success, which is the company that's behind the Instagram accounts Boss Ladies Mindset and also the Girl Gang Confidential. I am very excited to have today's guest here, Selin Bilgin. Thank you so much, Selin, for joining. Can you give everybody a little bit of an introduction of yourself and your company?
Yes. So my name is Selin. I am a holistic nutrition consultant or holistic nutritionist, depending on where you live. I also am the founder of Luscious Living, where personal growth meets wellness. So what I have found in my own journey is that there might be all these books, whether it's on goals or hormones or weight loss, whatever it is. I was reading all of them, and I never found something that combined all of it together, and also one that talked about the conscious and subconscious mind of wealth or of health as well. So that's what I do, is combine both of those through workshops and coaching, nutritional consulting as well.
Cool. Wow. And so you are based in Calgary, Alberta, but for anybody who's listening, do you also do your business virtually?
Yes, I have always, and we're filming this in time of, it's in September and quarantine time, but people ask me all the time, like, did you have to move your business online? The business is always online. I have clients that are typically in North America, but yeah, I can access me anywhere.
Awesome. So let's get into our questions today. Thank you, everybody. Welcome. I'm just waving at a couple of people. So you have an incredibly powerful story behind kind of what brought you into your business. And I really appreciate how vulnerable you are with your willingness to share it. So I was wondering if you could tell our listeners a little bit about that.
Yes. So as far as I remember, and I'm sure many of you can relate, I had pictures of models on my wall growing up. I would buy all of the model magazines, like all the popular ones that we see now, and I would have pictures of someone called Twiggy on my wall. And for those of you listening who don't know Twiggy, she was a very famous model in the 90s, and she had her name because of how she looked, Twig, right? And so I thought that was how I needed to look. And so I did not remember a time in my life where I wasn't dieting or trying to lose weight. And this is like very young. This is elementary school. And so I remember you would like practice walking the runway walk and all of these kinds of things. And I remember when I actually, for the first time, started to emotionally eat. Up until third grade, I ate when I was hungry, and I, just like, that was a very normal thing. And then I didn't eat if I wasn't hungry, and I would stop when I was full. But I remember I had a very difficult time in school. I'm a little quirky now, but imagine when you're younger, then it's like, it just doesn't really work as well then. And so, let's just say that school was very hard in that social way for me. And so I remember coming home one day, opening up a bag of Cheetos and eating them at third grade, thinking I'm not actually hungry. And it was the first time in my life where I noticed that I was eating out of how I felt and like to cover up how I felt. And so then combined with like this twiggy kind of mentality of this is how I have to be, and then enter in the emotional eating side of things, that started the path into having a very, very disordered relationship with food at a very young age. And then come university is when I really started to blossom into the opportunities of that were available, whether it was having a radio show or French club, Spanish club. There are so many things that I was involved with, and I started to become very busy and known around the school for what I was contributing. And so people start to see me a certain way, but however, on the inside, I was still experiencing that same emotional discomfort and really that void that I was trying to fill. And it was always through food. And when I noticed that I could go to the bathroom and make myself throw up at the same time as eating, and I thought I won the lottery. I was like, oh, I can eat whatever I want, and then I can look however I want and still maintain this image that people saw of me. And I became very exhausted. Like I was running around. I constantly had one thing next to go to, and on the outside, I had this really great life. And on the inside, I was really becoming a bulimic. And it started to scare me that it started to become involuntary, like going to the bathroom and purging was very involuntary. And that started to freak me out, but not enough to stop, because I was like, I like the way I look. I'm able to be super slim, keep eating what I want, and continue to do the binges, right, on the days where I was like felt out of control with the eating. And anyone that can, is listening to this might be able to relate to like that cycle. And if you hear anyone on the outside, you're like, it's just food. Like, how are you doing this? It's its own psychology. It really is. And I really, I was really suffering. I really was. I'm not sure how much into the story you want me to go, but I had a point where I started to get bloody noses when I was going to the bathroom. And that started to, again, scare me even further. But not enough to change until one summer I'm with my family on vacation, and they had eventually found out because they could hear me, and they didn't know how to handle it either. And so they didn't talk about it. And I think that's something to also discuss, is how do you talk to someone who is struggling with this and you can see it and you know it for sure. And I remember I got back from vacation and everybody was complimenting me on how good I looked. It was like, I have never been more complimented in my life about how I look than the time where I was at my most sick. Okay, like there was no food that was remaining in my body.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, like, that is so messed up. And and there's more to that, but that really started that, like, just on this topic of body image is it really made me question everything. And I'll just share super quickly is when my father passed away, my parents had a very, very close, loving relationship. And when he passed, my mom was drinking a bottle of wine a night. She was smoking a pack of cigarettes every second day, third day, and she was not eating. And again, when we went on vacation, my parents are from Turkey, people were complimenting her, like, oh my God, you look amazing. How did you lose all that weight? And I'm watching these people and I'm like, she's dying and you guys are telling her how good she looks. She doesn't have a morsel of nutrition in her body.
Yeah.
So that really, I mean, that's like some many fuels of how I got to start what I do.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredibly powerful. That like gives me goosebumps a little bit. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's so sad that society rewards you for being in such an unhealthy place and makes it so difficult to recover, because that's what we want when we're partaking in behaviors like that, is for people to see us and be like, you look so beautiful, And so for somebody to say that instead of being like, you know what, you're perfect, you don't have to do this, is exactly why so many women, and I'm sure men too, but we're here to address the women today, are struggling with these kinds of issues. And so Selin, how did you kind of get over that and move past that?
There was a time where I was at the height of my eating disorder, and I, again, this is very graphic, but I started to get bloody noses from both sides of my nostrils at this point. And then I had a bulge in my forehead from, like, I don't know if it's a vein that was popping or whatever it was. And that at that point, and I started to unfortunately become normalized to the fact that I would get a bloody nose after. Okay, but this time it stayed for a very long time. Like it was in the bathroom for a good 20 minutes probably, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it was 10 minutes. It seemed like a very long time. And I just sat there like holding my nose with Kleenex and thinking, I need to do something about this. And I was called to walk over to the mirror. I looked at myself deep in the eyes, and I hadn't looked at myself in the eyes for a long time throughout this process. Like if I was putting on makeup, I would like look at my eyelashes or put on clothes, look at my body. I wouldn't look at myself in the eyes because I felt so distant from myself. And I looked in the mirror and I said, people who love themselves don't do this to themselves. And that was the second last time I had ever stopped making myself throw up. And that was huge because that was just like almost a really decision. Yeah. It was a decision. And it has really been a whole journey. And I found that there was a lot of, and I'm grateful in a sense because it led me to the path I am at now. And so what helped me is continually looking for the thing that my soul and my heart was yearning for, because for so long I had lived in the other expectations of what other people wanted me to do. And there was that part, and also coping mechanisms. I didn't see any growing up, you don't really see a lot of healthy coping mechanisms in the world, right? And so I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. I didn't know how to deal with the negative ones. I thought that I always had to be positive. And so that was like this secretive thing and I wasn't sure how to deal with my feelings. And so then I started to learn new like emotional coping mechanisms that were healthy. And it's not like I never ate healthy food, for example. I was the person that would come home from the bar at university and cook myself scrambled eggs. So it was never about the food. It was really about me and my relationship to myself that really needed mending. Yeah.
But I mean, power to you, I guess, for taking that on your own, because there's so little, I guess, prompts and material for us as women to get to that place. So you really had to like literally look inside yourself and be like, you know what, I deserve better. I'm going to do this for me, but then walk through the situation and figure it out. And so that's like, I mean, power to you, my friend. I'm proud of you. That's really cool.
Thank you. And for anyone who is like considering a professional to, definitely recommend that. I think it's like, it can be, it looks differently for everyone. but it's definitely something that I did on my own. And if someone wants to get there faster, perhaps going to a professional in that way. But yes, it was a quest. It was my own heroine's journey.
I mean, I really relate to what you've gone through. I think, like, as a woman, it's something that I've also struggled with a lot of my life. And I reposted something on my story yesterday that was like, are your body goals for you, or are they for getting affirmation from everybody else?
Yeah.
And I was like, like, we always want to believe that we're doing it for us. I've always been like very like fitness focused and like image focused, but it's like, who am I doing this for? Like, I guess I know that I feel better when I feel that I look good, but it's really interesting to like really dive into that and kind of be super self-reflective on your own motivation.
I love that you bring that up, because when I saw your post on that, I'm like, oh, that is so good. And I think about, I do think about the yin and yang of the body image, or like the body positivity, because for me, when I had, and this is after I had stopped binging, purging, I just started binging, and so I gained over 40 pounds. Like, that is a lot of weight for me at that point. So, and I was like, okay, there's body positivity and body image, but I'm like, I don't feel comfortable in who I am and how I look. And so it's funny, because I think, and how I coach my clients too, is almost the reverse. It's like, how do we want to feel once we get, let's say, the affirmations of people, and then embody that now, and then we naturally take the actions to be that way. You know what I mean? Instead of being like, oh, I have to do like this HIIT workout for 37 days straight and eat pea soup or something, and it's like, to look a certain way, you're like, we're gonna be miserable on the way and miserable after. So, you know what I mean? But I love that you had shared that, because it's so true. Like, who are we becoming, and for who?
Yeah, totally. And something that I've really been thinking about in the past year or so is like health as a priority rather than appearance. So, like eating well and doing exercise is a super important way of taking care of your body and, increasing your immune system and extending your life, really. So it's like, I've just been really trying to shift my mindset to make sure I'm doing these things for those reasons, to take care of myself, instead of like killing myself to try and make my body look a certain way that really isn't healthy.
Yep, 100%. So true.
So where do you stand now? Like, would you consider yourself fully recovered, or do you think that this is just something that'll be with you forever?
Back when I moved back to Calgary, I had a personal trainer, and one of the reasons that I worked with her is because she had also gone through a very similar situation. She had gone to a clinic to get help, and this is years and years ago for her. And she said that this is something that will always be a part of her. And she was kind of emphasizing that it was almost like your eye color, like this is always going to be who you are. And she was kind of saying that for herself and for anyone who's ever struggled with it. And I, in that moment, didn't resonate with that. I mean, I don't have any sort of, I don't purge at all anymore. And that's been many years since that happened. And so I think the more that we evolve as a person, the less that we have the same concern. I still, of course, I see a photo of myself, and or like I sometimes I'll get like, usually photos are the trigger for me, where I'm like, I'm not there yet. And so there are some certain things that I do still think about. I still, of course, think about, but it's different. It's not like my only sole focus, because my whole goal since I was a kid was weight loss. And then when I shifted my attention to how can I love my life?
Yeah.
That, you know, and how can I, you know, how can I increase my fitness? How can I increase my goals? How can I go after what I want in life? I do find that our brain somehow rewires, and our attention goes to growth instead of criticism and breaking down. So to answer your question, I think because we are such a image focused society, we will always care. I do care about how I look and how I feel. I still do have moments of being like, like I don't look good in that photo because I've looked bigger, right? Or because I look big, you know, and so that's still there for me. And then I realize that I'm just being self-absorbed at times too, and I'm just, you know, or motivates me to like do so, like focus on something else. So to answer your question, yes and no.
Yeah. I guess you're conscious of it now, right? Which makes it a different journey than you were having before, but for sure it's always something that we're going to be kind of navigating.
You know what? You said it perfectly. It's always something that we're navigating, right? Because even the other day, I was like, sometimes I will like mentally calculate how many calories. Like before, I remember sitting in class, and this is years ago, and I'd be like, okay, I ate it, and I would like not be paying attention to my notes or the class because I was thinking about what I ate and what I have to do to burn that off. Like it was obsessive, right? And sometimes I'll still be like, how many calories have I eaten if I'm not tracking it, you know? And then, or sometimes I don't track it at all. So you said it perfectly, just navigating it.
One thing that I've like really realized, and this doesn't just apply to how we look, but really like every area of our life, is that other people care a lot less than we think they do. You know, like I do a lot of like workout classes, and there would be days when I would literally spend the whole entire 60-minute class looking at my stomach in the mirror every time it like folded in a way that I thought was like not cute. And oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so disgusting. And then like I thought about it, and I was like, you spend 0 minutes of the class looking at other people's stomachs and
analyzing
and
totally
thinking, how could you even show up here? You have a role, you know? Like I would never think that about someone else. I would never. It's not even that I'm like thinking it and not saying it. Like it's not even crossing my mind. And so I'm like, that means 0 people are looking at me and thinking like, wow, you should put a shirt on, you know?
Totally.
And so it's like, wait, what? Like, why am I expending my energy on this with the thought, like, it's kind of self-centered to think that other people care about what your stomach looks like that much. Like they don't.
It's very self-centered. And I think that's when we get anxiety, is like we're just focusing on ourselves and focusing on like how we look and how we appear. Whereas, you know, people who are truly confident, they're like, the focus is like, how can I improve my skills? How can I serve other people? You know, whereas we just become, I've been there so many times, like, oh, my arms look too big, or my stomach, whatever, you know, and like no one else cares. I'm not walking down the street being like, oh, this person's arms are big or their face is big or whatever. Like, no, you know?
Because they're literally thinking that about themselves.
Exactly.
You know, they're not thinking it about you. And if there is somebody out there who is looking at you and thinking something so like cruel and judgmental, then like their opinion doesn't matter, because they're like really struggling with their own things inside. So that's like such a important realization, that most people really don't care, and anybody who does is dealing with something beyond that. So just don't worry about it, you know?
It's so true. It's none of our business what other people think of us.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
So you did speak a little bit about the ways that society gives unhealthy feedback to us to exacerbate these issues. For example, being complimented on when you're like at your absolute skinniest. So I guess, how can we be conscious in addressing the people in our lives when we likely do not understand what they're going through, related to their own body image and relationship with food. So how can we, what are some alternate, I guess, ways that we could compliment our friends to be sensitive to this?
I love this question. So I'm because I'm so sensitive to when other people still to this day will make a body compliment. I am so sensitive for other people. And so how I've approached it is, and you can notice the quality of someone's skin, if they're glowing, if their eyes are extra like sparkling, or their color of their eyes are beautiful. Or someone has a really great taste in shoes or a handbag. Or I think at the end of the day, the best thing we can compliment someone on is their essence. We all want to be seen and loved and heard and appreciated for who we are. So we can pick out those points of some, a friend being super witty and like, I love how thoughtful you are, or whatever it is. These things also matter. Just showing appreciation helps us to grow, and we feel good around people who appreciate us. And so if we can appreciate those qualities as well, I think it goes a very, very long way. And people still want to be complimented on their physical appearance. We all do. So it could be like something that's not body related necessarily, right? Because we don't know what someone's going through to get to that point.
Well, even to say like, you look beautiful instead of you look skinny, or you look like you've lost weight.
Yeah, exactly.
I find I get very triggered, even though sometimes when people in my life are saying you look like you lost weight, they mean it as a compliment, but it triggers me because it's like, okay, but like I didn't look good before.
I know? That's exactly it. And like, what if I gain it back? It's like, am I not going to look good again? Like this whole thing, I totally understand. It's funny. I had someone, this is about a year ago now, and it was just like this gentleman at the gym, and he was like, he's like, you lost weight. And it bothered me for a second. But at the same time, I found myself saying, yeah, I'm happier. I literally, it was like this automatic thing. I didn't even think about it. It just came out. And it was so true, where because we end up being happier, we end up having other parts of us glow, and people, who have never experienced that kind of trigger also may not understand what it's like to receive a compliment like that. But I find that in its essence, when we're happy, it can be told. And I think we also have to train ourselves to see that within other people. Is like someone might have lost weight, but are they looking healthy? And on that point, I think it really comes to us to start to put out the message and define what is health versus what is a specific slim body type. Like they are very, very different. And so the more that we look at the markers of health, of like this quality of skin, quality of eyes, like hair, the whiteness of the eyes, the voice quality as well. And then we look at like even whether it's like digestion, how digestion is, like going through all of that. And that's something I always go through in my workshops. Like, this is health. Aim for this. Yeah. And other things will follow.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, let's get into that a little bit more. So Luscious Living is really providing unique nutrition advice that is tailored to women specifically, because it also brings into account our hormones, which is a huge part of everyday life as a woman. So I guess first let's start with nutrition. Like, can you give us some female specific nutrition advice? How can we prioritize our health moving forward?
Great question. So I honestly would eliminate any sort of an unlearn diet culture. I will just share that I was someone who has done literally every diet there is, like from weird stuff to Banana Island, to the Master Cleanse, to raw vegan, to keto. Like, I've tried so many things, and that would mess me up even more. And especially if you are prone to disordered eating, please start to eliminate good and bad foods, start to eliminate a specific kind of diet if it's within your also ethical consideration, okay? And so begin to eat more whole foods that balance blood sugar. This is so important, and especially if someone has hormone challenges, I do not recommend fasting, okay? But if, you know, and obviously speak to your primary healthcare provider for that. But if, you know, if someone's working with me and they have just some upgrades to make, it would be to start the day, whether you have breakfast or lunch, whatever it is, but having protein with each meal.
Okay.
This could look like eggs, it could look like chicken, it could look like quinoa, which is a complete protein. Rice and beans together make a complete protein as well. Spirulina. So having protein to balance blood sugar. Okay. This is so important. Really, really helped with hormones, helped with cortisol as well. Helps to manage weight. The second thing I want to share is to have enough fiber. When we go on diets like low carb or keto, these don't include a variety of carbohydrates. So like asparagus and cucumbers, sweet potato, things like this. We need carbohydrates for cognitive function, but also in looking at hormones, we need it for fiber, which bulks our stool, and then we eliminate excess estrogen. And if someone has excess estrogen, this is the clear signs of having PMS, so tender breasts, hormonal acne along the jawline, having really, really intense cramps, bloating. These things have been kind of taught to us that they're normal and it's like a female curse. It's not. And so we need fiber to eliminate excess estrogen. The third thing is to really learn to live in tune with your cycle. I teach a lot about this, but it's looking at the 4 phases of the feminine cycle. So your follicular phase, ovulatory, luteal, and menstrual. We need different nutrients and movement and a rhythm different from like ovulatory to menstrual. It's actually completely opposite. Our hormone levels, our energy levels are in completely different levels than I'm again comparing ovulatory and menstrual. But when we start to confuse them or not pay attention or respect our cycle, we end up having hormonal challenges and fatigue. We end up having a whole variety of challenges that come with this. And it's really about coming back into our feminine wisdom. So I wanted to provide three tips there.
Wow. I mean, you kind of just blew my mind a little bit, because honestly, I don't think that I'm like considering my cycle in the way that I'm eating at all right now. So, but I also just love that you kind of like discredited or made me consider a lot of like really popular diet fads. Like that's not healthy. Like one that I've actually been messing around with somewhat recently is intermittent fasting. And then it's interesting because there's a series on Netflix called Unwell.
I've seen a few episodes.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that they're like talking about, and they come at it from a really interesting point of view, like that they show the benefits and the potential downfalls. But I just especially too, like the carb-free diet is something that is really pushed as just like a general, like, this is bad for you, don't do this. And it's like, no, like don't have like a muffin that's actually a cupcake and it's literally 100% processed sugar. But like healthy carbs are not only good for you, they're so important to your diet.
Exactly. And we actually need them more in our luteal and our menstrual phase, which is why some women have crashing of energy, crashing of mood, why you crave sweets as well, is if we're not proactive with that and we're like, oh, sorry, I don't eat any carbohydrates. Well, we are doing ourselves a disservice and then causing more stress in the body, amplifying our symptoms. So it's very interesting. And at the end of the day, any sort of diet that has it like very rigid rules is selling us something. Like someone has produced some sort of like a plan And at the end of the day, the most unsexy way of doing things is balanced and targeted. It's like no one's profiting off of, you know, telling you to eat a balanced diet.
Yeah. Wow. That's like so important to consider. Like when we're thinking about, I just love like the journey into awareness. Okay. Like being more self-aware with ourselves. Like now I need to like, I feel like do so much reflection on how I'm feeling and how it might be hormone based, but also like when exactly what you said, when somebody's selling you something, what is their motivation for selling that to you? You know, you have to sometimes really look past the beautiful exterior in terms of all the promises of the perfect body you're going to have and be like, okay, but how are they making money out of this?
And that's the thing. This is the same thing as like as the compliments externally. It's like we're so used to using our external senses rather than being like, hey, we're equipped with like gut feelings. We're equipped with like this contemplation, the will and perception, and so it really is going beyond the senses to look at, hey, what is really right for me versus what is being kind of like hypnotized in a way of like what I should be doing, how I should be eating, there is no should. And I just want to make a note of, as women, we're so good with the shoulds. And I do work with the chakra system, energy system in that way. And actually should is directly related to our throat chakra and our thyroid hormone as well. And a lot of women who are walking around like, I should be this way, my kid should be this way, life shouldn't be this way. I do end up having some sort of challenge in the throat chakra, could be thyroid related as well. I just felt called to share that. It was a little bit off topic, but
no, very cool.
And actually, on that note, it is our thoughts that produce cortisol. Okay, and this is no longer like our stress hormones, no longer tiger chasing us, but it's our thoughts of I should be this way, I shouldn't be this way. Is this person better than me? Am I the right size? And that actually excess cortisol steals from the production of something called progesterone, which makes our uterine lining, helps us to keep having the baby if that's what we want. And so I see a lot of women with infertility who have excess estrogen and excess cortisol, but it also helps keep us calm. So I just needed to make that note. I was just really called to share about the relationship between the shoulding and the thoughts and the cortisol and hormones as well.
I have been trying so hard to release should. Okay, never do something because you have should in the sentence that's convincing you to do it. There is no should. Do what is right for you. Okay, I'm really trying to eliminate that word from my vocabulary these days.
You know, I recommend a book called Conscious Language, and he really talks about the shift of our outer reality through our inner language of, you know, going from should to I choose not to, I will try to I am, it's incredible because our internal shifts will manifest externally, whether that's health or wealth or relationships, whatever it is, but it all stems from our thought process.
Totally. Positive. Yeah. And we're completely in control of that, which is amazing because you don't actually feel like that originally. But you can stop yourself and be like, no, I'm not going to have this like negativity about myself. I'm not going to like give into this like spiral of worry.
It's so easy to go there though. It happens so fast.
I know. And so it's all about awareness. That is like really such a big part of the journey is where's this coming from? Why am I doing this? Can I interrupt this? You know? So one thing that I wanted to mention quickly before we go on to the next question about hormones is just the way that we sometimes can connect our self-esteem to the size of clothes that we wear. And for me, especially during COVID, like I put on some serious COVID pounds. Okay. And I've been like a pretty consistent size, like most of my life. And now I've been really doing a lot more like muscle work at the gym and building different muscles. So my body's been changing a lot. And I like literally forever was just like trying to like shove myself into these clothes because I'm like, I cannot size up. Like I refuse to size up. I have to, like, if I keep this, I'm going to make it work. And like that is just such a ridiculous mindset. And there are lots of sizes of clothes for a reason, because there are lots of sizes of people.
Yeah.
And so finally I like went, like, honestly, most of it's like Lulu. I like live in workout gear and leggings. And I was like, okay, I'm going to size up. And like, not only do they feel so much better, but they look amazing because they fit me properly. And I'm not like overflowing out of the top of these like high-rise leggings. And I'm like, okay, I need to like not like, it's not about you have to be an extra small or you have to be a 2 or a 4 or whatever. Like, you have to be comfortable in what you're wearing. And when you're comfortable in what you're wearing, you're gonna feel good. You're gonna look good. So like, I just want to encourage everybody to kind of release that size anxiety.
And that's the question, is like, how do we do that, right? And it's unlearning, and because we all have it, you know, I'm going to say I'm going to say most of us, right? So I think it really is. I think the more that we end up loving the life that we're creating, you know, and like that love, when we love someone else, we know that journey there's ups and downs. And so we're going to have ups and downs within ourselves. But the biggest thing that I can share on my own journey has been like looking at all the different areas of my life and how I want to live and work towards that every day. The more that somehow the size parts of it work, and realize that not everyone has to be a 00 or whatever, right?
But don't you also think that how even the sizes are labeled is really negatively contributing to, you know, like do we really have to call it large and extra large? Like, how is that making people feel? Like, of course, as women, we're going to want to be small and extra small, you know?
Wow, that's a beautiful, beautiful point. Did not even consider that.
Yeah, wow. Okay, we are totally running over time, so I want to get to the last question quickly about hormones. So first of all, like, how can we become more aware of our hormones, and what do we need to know about getting them in balance?
So I would start to track where you are in your cycle. So if you have just, let's say, finished your cycle, I would start to put it in your calendar. There's also apps like Hello Clue and Flow app, for example. I just like to just put on my calendar with a red dot, old school like that. And I just track where I am in my cycle. And in that way I can then, and this is something intuitively you can feel too, but whether you need more like fresh foods, cooler foods, warmer foods, what kind of workouts, and you'll understand why some days you are able to push it at the gym or the run, and then some days you're like, oh, I could do this last week, but I can't do it this week. So being aware of your cycle and learning, like on my Instagram page, I do share like different phases of the cycle and how to optimize each one just if you scroll down. And then going back to eating fiber, complex carbs, healthy fats as well. If someone is not eating enough healthy fats, we need healthy fats to produce hormones. Okay. That's a big thing. Honestly, this is something that is, you know, we've all heard before, but it matters is our daily perceptions. Our daily perceptions of stress, our daily perceptions of the world and how we talk to ourselves. This is so important because each thought creates a physiological response.
Okay.
Just as if you are embarrassed, you start to turn red, maybe you flush, or you're angry, or you're excited. You start to have, you know, the butterflies in your stomach or your heart or whatever. And then you start to smile more if you're, and it's a thought like, oh, I can't wait to jump on that plane. I can't wait to, you know, talk to this person. It's the same. Like, we cannot expect that the thought of I'm not good enough and am I ever going to get there or whatever it is not having an impact on our body. There's always that relationship. And so being a detective of our beliefs and where our thoughts are, whether they're serving us. And it's honestly just like going to the gym. It is uncomfortable to begin to change our thoughts. Especially if you're like me. I grew up being like the negative worrywart. I really was that person.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of effort. I'm going to say it took effort to change my internal dialogue. And it's always a work in progress. It's just like, how boring would life be if we never had anything to work on?
Totally.
So
the journey.
those are some, sorry?
It's a journey.
It is a journey. It is a journey. And I know that, you know, if you're like me, you wanted to arrive yesterday. But at the same point, it's like, yeah, like if we were not progressing, which that makes us happy. Like, that is happiness in my eyes, is progressing. You know, so
improving.
Yeah, that's right. So those are my tips.
Like for someone like me, so first of all, like I have an IUD, so I don't get a cycle in the traditional way. But something that I've been really working to pay attention to more is listening to my body, you know? So if I'm like, you know, feeling really tired today, maybe canceling that workout or taking that nap, or if I'm craving a certain thing, like letting myself have it. Like, do you think that that could really be like, is my hormones communicating to me in like, you know, telling me what I need, and that we should all try and listen to that more?
I love that question. And yes, too, especially like we're like, it's funny because, you know, when we have to go to the bathroom, we go to the bathroom, and when we have to, when we're tired, we sleep. But we, again, because of all this mixed messaging, when we're, you know, wanting to rest instead of work out, or when we're wanting to eat when we're hungry, like we end up mixing those cycles. So yes to listening to our body. And I do find that birth control and hormonal other contraceptives do have a bit of an impact on being able to listen to our body at the same time. And so that's something to consider as well. This is such a tricky subject because I also, you know, want to be sexually active with my partner and also not be pregnant right now. And so I used to have the copper IUD, and then I started to have troubles with that. And so I don't have any birth control now, and also have been more connected to my body than ever before as well. So, yeah, like a little bit, like, honestly, the answer is so not black and white, but you asked a really good question. Yeah.
Well, I feel like we could spend a long time here having this conversation, but I do know that we are already 17 minutes over the allotted time that we scheduled. So I am going to kind of wrap this up, and I'm going to post it on Instagram for everybody to see. And then maybe we can come back for a round 2 in the future. But Selin, thank you so much for being here. And I honestly learned so much. So if anybody who is watching this wants to find you, wants to contact you, wants to learn more from you, where can they do that?
I would go to my Instagram, which is _Luscious Living _. I do have my website at selinbilgin.com. And if you go to my Instagram, you'll probably be able to learn the spelling of that a little bit better. It's SelinBilgin.com. And I also have a painless period guide that is coming out soon. So stay tuned for that and head over to Instagram to find out the details.
Sorry, painless period? I've never heard of those.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole book about like beating bloating, cramping, living in tune with your cycle. So that will be released in the near future.
Wow, that is exciting and sounds like something that I will definitely be reading. So thank you for putting that information out there for other women. That's so cool.
Thank you for having me, Jill. It's been so great.
Again, for anybody who jumped on later, I am Jillian, aka Hype Girl of Hype Girl Coaching. You can find me at Hype Girl Coaching on Instagram or www.hypegirl.ca. Ladies, thank you for being here, and everybody have a fantastic day.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Boss Ladies Mindset channel powered by Crown for Success. Please tune in next week for another episode, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram at RVP Queens, at The Girl Gang Confidential, at Crown for Success, at Strong Women Are Beautiful, and of course at Boss Ladies Mindset.